Welcome, everybody, to the Scale Up Show. This is your host, Ryan, and I have a very special guest back with me again. I have Fred from Stay22 back again, the Chief Commercial Officer, a three-time go-to-market leader, father of three, law and life martial artist expert, not like at Bruce Lee level, also a huge hockey fan. So, Fred, welcome. Happy to have you back on the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. Excited to be back.
If you missed him and no problem, buddy. If you missed him for part one, we talked about how he kind of married up scaling a content organization with AI and some of the cultural aspects around that. In this episode, and by the way, if you missed that, go back and check it out because he goes deep on some things that we've never talked about before. Okay. So today, though, what we're going to talk about is really the journey on how they grew from 15 million to 30 million in 1 year. And as a leader over everything that relates to revenue, what were the key components to that? And so before we do that, though, Fred, can you give us a real quick backdrop on like just what Stay22 does and then the outcomes it creates for its clients?
For sure. I mean, Stay22, we're a travel technology solution that leverages AI to do better affiliation strategies for publishers. So essentially, we help our partners, our clients, monetize their content effortlessly, right? All a bunch of fancy words, but essentially we allow them to make more money by better serving their users. If you're a publisher, right, we'll both make money every time we're able to answer the need, mainly a travel need right now, of one of your readers. And we're basically helping over 3,000 publishers right now grow their revenues and really doing that with technology by leveraging insights of over 2 billion page views that we had last year, right? Using a model, an AI model that kind of understands the real-time on-site user behavior to showcase them, if there is sufficient travel intent, and only if, not to be spammy, the right offer, the right way at the right time. That has led to really significant RPM uplifts for our publisher partners. And this is why we're successful, because every time basically we make money, they make money. And we only make money by helping a user find a product, service, or travel option that he was looking for. So that's who we are in terms of size. I mean, we're now 62, 63. Can't believe how fast we grew. In terms of employees, Montreal based out of Canada, and 30 million ARR right now, and aiming to double that for this year.
That's awesome, man. And 62 for 30 million is pretty lean. So we'd love to dig into that a little bit because like that's a model a lot of folks are trying to emulate and get to that point. Like, what would you say were the key elements and underpinnings, first of all, achieving that result from going from 15 to 30 last year?
Well, I think first and foremost, I might be a go-to-market guy, but I think first and foremost, it's your product or the service you're offering, right? All strong business success, not all, the vast majority of strong business success that I've seen start with a good product and service, right? And contrary to what we think, that's not defined by how good and fast we sell it. It's much more defined on whether it churns or not, right? So a lot of our success is based on our model, right? The fact that you have a great product that effortlessly, passively creates net new revenue to our partners, which are mainly publishers, not exclusively, but mainly publishers. That's not taking away from their current monetization. So it's not zero sum, replace an ad network with ours and see who performs better. No, it lives on top of everything and it's new, it's different to what they've seen in the past. All right. So that's just our product works well and is useful to our target market. Important.
Can I interrupt real quick, but not to throw you out? You know what it reminds me of? It sounds like a legit way of like all those get rich quick schemes of like make passive income while you sleep, but it's actually delivers on the promise. So like really cool elements. I'm not saying it's a get rich quick scheme by any means, right? I'm just saying like, obviously you wouldn't have grown and be to the point, but you see those on TV and everything.
100%. Yeah, I get it. But yeah, no, I mean, you're right. It is passive. The AI takes essentially, obviously, the AI that will understand the content on page and ensure we're showing contextual offers to that user only if he's interacted with the content sufficiently to equate strong transactional intent is is that AI doing the typical affiliate work instead of the publisher.
That's awesome.
So that's the first thing. Obviously, then the model of fact that like it's not SaaS, meaning there is no renewal friction. There is no upfront cost friction. So assuming the product does what it's supposed to do, delivers on its value promise, there's really little reason to churn, right? It's not as if, okay, then every year I want to increase. I was a young startup, so I undercut my value, and now I want to raise my SaaS fee by 10%, and that creates friction. So that just allows us to stack net new revenues and compound that effect. So from going from 15 to 30, obviously in December of 2023, we knew we were on a monthly revenue pace that would bring us way more than 15 unless something disastrous happens, right? So that's just, I think, the most mathematical look at it. The business model allows for us to completely scale up. Then I think, along with a very strong product was our ability to move a bit more upmarket, right? And so with the same deal velocity, have a stronger deal value, stronger LTV. That means that obviously every new deal we land just adds more to that compounding stack. So basically, to give the story, from 1 to 15, or from 5 to 15, let's put it this way, it was a lot by working with publishers that were kind of travel bloggers, right? And they vary greatly in size, but they're kind of, more solopreneur or small team or freelancers, and sometimes very successful, by the way, and really opened my eye. Like, some people make a lot of money with a very lean solopreneur reality. A very good lifestyle business if you're successful. But that obviously, first and foremost, the concept of a travel blogger owning its own website, I would not say it's dying, because it's definitely survived, but it's not a growth market, right? The bulk of the content, travel or not travel content, getting created on closed code, walled garden, social media, right? So that travel content creator space is growing much faster on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok than it is on open web. So we knew we could not stay there in that specific space and continue to grow. That said, there's still a bunch of more mid-tail to enterprise level publishers that we could get. So we started moving towards that. But that was a different reality for the team too, right? Selling to a solopreneur or somebody who has a very small team is very different than selling to a large 500 people or even more company, different stakeholders, InfoSec, legal, all that reality. So a lot of investment in training and upskilling the team was made for us to kind of face that challenge and better navigate that. We were pretty successful on getting more upmarket. There's still obviously a ton of market to be had more, but that was, I think, number 2 that really drove the success, right? Again, just bigger deals, same amount of time to maybe a bit more amount of time, but not the deal is twice as valuable. It's not twice longer.
Right, exactly.
And then the third aspect is that in that kind of upmarket exploration, we discovered that there is travel intent, because our solution mainly now monetizes travel, even though we're expanding past that this year. There's travel intent on content that is not purely travel. I'll give you a few examples, right? It could be a website that is about surfing. The surfers share their best spots to surf or best techniques or best gear. There's actually a lot of leftover travel intent in outdoor activities or sports websites. Or it could be on weather websites. Meaning, why would you ever look at the weather in a city that you're not in? Chances are you're traveling there, right? So we were able to identify all those like travel adjacent publishers and websites and bring them a completely new, different monetization solution that lived on top of whatever they had. Yeah, it was a challenging sale in the sense that it requires education because it's new. It's not a commodity. But when that's accomplished and when you have sufficient case studies to go about it, it becomes very exciting from the client point of view, because it's not a question of Stay22 or this other solution, you're not losing to competition anymore. Your main enemy is status quo, which is a different sale that we've been able to get right. That's the main story, I think. And a whole lot of work and a bit of luck and all that stuff.
Well, so, and I love the part about the adjacent intent. So how did you identify that, and how would you recommend someone replicate that? Because I think there's a lot of adjacent intent hanging out there, and I think some of the core intent triggers aren't necessarily nailed, and I think some of the adjacent stuff could be not specifically what you're talking about. I'm just saying in general, go to market. Yeah. So how would you kind of codify that?
I mean, none of these ideas came from me. I think that for me is a lesson is always, I'm going to go very upstream. I'm a bit philosophical here. Hire smart people, give them a good direction, a good quantitative and qualitative objective as what the promised land looks like, right? Of course, season. I'm not saying it's a scale, but always ensure they have room for exploration or do their things a bit differently. You kind of, the outdoor activity kind of segment, right? Surfing, hiking, climbing, even jiu-jitsu. This was an old salesperson a long time ago who, during the pandemic, he was with us. Back then, we were exclusively doing travel intent for events. His name is Phil, if ever he watches this. Phil, thank you. He said, like, hey, all travel is depressed right now. It's a pandemic. But guys, like, event travel is the intersection of doom. Right? Like, we can't be there. But like, what type of travel is there? And he's like, hey, you know what? Like, I want to go outside and do some canoeing, right? I'm pretty sure everybody wants to go outdoors, do some stuff, escape the city, right? So there's still travel. So that brought us like, oh, people now, they want to go outside of the city to do an activity, right? Not necessarily the destination matters, but lesser sort of the activity. So he brought that idea. I mean, it's not like he didn't invent that idea, but he highlighted to it within the context of Stay22, and that let's remember that as we go to kind of publishers. The other one, the weather, for example, is just absolutely kind of one of our more outside the box salesperson, being who he is, not really respecting ICP completely, right? And decides, let's shoot here. Like, what is this? Then you see the performance. This is working. Wait a minute. Let's try it again. It works again. So sometimes, best practice, zone in the ICP. And this is right. It is best practice for a reason. I'm not saying it's not good. It's just, I find often in go-to-market, it's sexy to frame it as science.
Mm-hmm.
And we should to an extent. But like, let's remember it's social science. It's not physics. The ICP, your medic, all the good stuff that you're going to, the LTV to CAC, all the good stuff that matters greatly that should look at. Sometimes remember, like, there's still an area of creativity, of instincts and gut that comes in. And often it's not going to be the ivory tower guy that's going to have the genius idea. At least that's very rarely is it me who comes up with the great what should be done. It's more about your role to foster a culture where you're able to allow people to do that without losing completely focus, of course. And you have the feedback loops and the ability to capture that new discovery, test it again. If it works, scale it up.
Yeah. I think that's great because, you find a lot of things that are hidden in plain sight because the situation changed, right? And so the current variables don't necessarily mean that it's going to keep down the same path, like you're saying with the travel and activity versus travel and the destination. I think is super, super critical. So we're just about up on time. I have one last question for you. One of the things that you decided to do, this was all the way in like May. I think we spoke about integrating AI into your go-to-market. So why did you decide to do that at that point? And then like, what was your experience from there till the finish? Would just love to hear your perspective on that. I've never asked you that question before.
For sure. Well, I mean, like, why AI enablement? I think we discussed a bit on the previous podcast. I realized it was just a fundamental technological shift and we had to get on that train or at least dabble into it. Now, I was, though, very strategic about when, right? So I mentioned earlier that we were doing a bunch of upskilling program for the team, right? And some of it was like, okay, a kind of challenger sale type of method. And then we looked into medic and account mapping and all that good stuff, which was awesome, right? But I know full well that doing this across everything is time consuming, right? And I look at some of the skill set and profiles of my team, and some of them are the perfect meticulous. I'm generalizing, right? Your typical enterprise sales, very meticulous, slow moving, but very strategic type of thing. But they're few and far between, and at least they were and still are probably in our team right now. I have much more of that go-getter, charging in, hungry salesperson. And I'm like, okay, they're just not. I'm the fool if I expect them to change their nature and become somebody else they're not. So let's use AI so that what you usually could have taken them 4 hours takes them 10 minutes, right? And then we'll achieve maybe not 100% of the 4 hours value, but 80. And doing that at scale, perhaps we'll not have the closing average of the best enterprise sales guys in the world, but we'll have the deal creation 3 times faster. So at the end of the day, we'll still be good. So that was kind of the mindset. Okay, we got all the knowledge. It's been drilled in, the theoretical thing. How do we apply it at scale via AI? So that was really the timing and the why we decided to work together back in June. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah,
June,
it was like
July.
May of 24,
Okay.
I think it was. And then, you started implementing in September.
Yeah, exactly. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. And then what surprised you about the end result after kind of going through the process of upskilling the entire team?
Well, I think the adoption surprised me positively, right? I expected more resistance to AI. Obviously, it's not absolutely equal across the entire board, but overall, I think everybody did a very significant step forward in terms of effectiveness and efficiency gains. I see all my salespeople, partner success, marketing, RevOps, a whole lot, all right, leveraging AI in their day-to-day, right? It goes from quality of language written, simple, just better. So people who were not extremely good with the written words or much more verbal, now suddenly, boom, it's better, and it still emulates their tone because they've trained it correctly, to the ability to produce with marketing just at the scale that they can do with a team of 3 marketers, whether it's design or content, without really hurting the quality so much. That was impressive. And then for RevOps, it's really just the ability to push a little bit, to maybe sometimes just operate independently and by creating code without having the product and engineers offer some of their bandwidth to do that. Overall, Ryan, it's really what I'm the most proud of is that they're all actively using this new tool, which will by nature force them to dabble new things and grow. It's kind of setting them on a path of future growth. Where they stop is really up to them, but they're on the treadmill now, right? And I think that is foundationally the action that has the most impact.
Love that, man. Yeah, I mean, there's a massive multiplier. Your team did amazing work. I think there was, in a 2-month span, 60 plus use cases they identified, and there was outcomes ranging from 4 hours gained on one activity to one of the more junior reps closing the largest, biggest deal of the year, which is awesome to see too on the qualitative side. So great work done by your team. Great job on you for having that foresight, because it's funny, there's a lot of folks I'm talking to about now that are just starting to think about it. So the fact that you already implemented it is amazing. So unfortunately, we're up on time. Where can people find you? Where can they find more about Stay22? And then we'll wrap.
I mean, Stay22.com, pretty straightforward. And if you want to look what I'm about, if you survived 20 minutes of me talking, you want to hear more about Fred, I think LinkedIn, Frederic Aouad, you have my name here. Look me up on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there.
Love it. All right. Well, thanks for being on again. And thank you for joining us today. And we will see you on the next episode.
Sounds good. Bye, Ryan.